Well, everybody, welcome to our next episode of Failing Daily. I want to welcome David Mathis. He's president and CEO of MartinFed. And he is a friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to spending a few minutes. We just probably had the good conversation, like we always do. We talked offline better than probably online, but let's see if we can do it. Can I just start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, your career,
Yeah,
some interesting
yeah.
things?
You can tell from my accent that I'm not from New Hampshire, but I grew up here in the North Alabama area. Went to Auburn University, so I always tell everybody, we used to be a football school. Now we're a basketball school. I'm hoping for a football school again, but I'm a little different than some of the other GovCon CEOs. A lot of the GovCon CEOs that I know were technical people, or they were working in the organization and then started a business because they had a skill or technical capabilities that they thought that would be better served if it was their own business. I actually got into banking and was a commercial banker and started a couple banks for 25 years and was banking federal contractors. And here in Huntsville, Alabama, if you didn't understand GovCon, you really didn't understand the banking community and the government community. And so I did that and banked GovCon companies for 20 plus years. And we had started a bank and loved the bank, loved the customers, loved the team that we had built. But I kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit, and that's why I liked starting banks. But the growth side of things is a bit of a drug. I mean, if you like growing and you like creating, maintaining isn't as much fun. And so I left banking at that time and invested in MartinFed, and then bought MartinFed in 2021. So here we are, 8 years later, out of banking, still trying to figure it out. And the title of your show, Failing Daily, I think I've failed twice already today. So mission accomplished there.
Yeah. So listen, on that career path, that's quite a story. That's different than most of the ones I hear.
It's a lot different, right?
It's very different. So what do you think, maybe what's your biggest career accomplishment? Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like along the way,
Yeah.
you had to choose one.
Yeah. It's tough to really think about career accomplishments because I don't think a lot of us tend to sit and look back very often. And so that question's interesting to me. In thinking about what biggest accomplishments are, one of the things I'm most proud of is the ability that we've had to build teams, and successful teams and high growth teams. And then looking now around the community, and I'll use banking for an example. We have several of the people that were part of our teams when we were building the bank are now not necessarily with the same bank anymore, but they've moved on to leadership roles. And so there's 5, 6, 7 of the folks that I used to work with that are now market presidents or CEOs within banks. And so I like to say that I enjoy building leaders, but I don't think that I necessarily do it purposely. I just think that I'm good at putting smart people together and getting out of the way. But so when I look around the banking community here, when you start seeing the CEOs and the market presidents, or those guys that were early in their career when I first started working with them, I'm really proud of that. And the same thing here. You hate to lose people. But Bill, when people you grow somebody and they now want to go do their own thing, or they have an opportunity to lead an organization, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. So I'm really proud to see people that grow and do their own thing or lead organizations after they've spent some time with me and with the other teammates that we have.
So you said you don't do it on purpose. What do you think it is that you do that? I mean, you have a reputation, which what you just described backs that up for me. Like really great guy, great to work for, builds teams. So what do you do? What do you think you do if it's not on purpose? Because there's been a lot of success there.
Well, maybe subconsciously it is on purpose because I want to win, and so the only way to win is to have really good teams. And so, maybe it's just intuitive for me to, really find really smart people that have got drive and got a fire in their belly. and then give them the tools that they need to be able to grow and accomplish the goals and objectives of the organizations, and then get out of the way. And so, when I say it's not on purpose, I think that leading by example is on purpose. And so, I would think that most of the people that you would, if you met some of the folks that have worked with me that are now leaders, I don't know that I purposely sat down with them and say, okay, I'm going to make you a leader. I think what I've done is listen and try to remove some of the administrative BS that might be slowing them down, or making sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful. And I think smart people see that, and if it benefits them, they want to duplicate that. And so while it might not be on purpose, I think that just the process of being genuine and caring about people and wanting them to be successful, because you want them to be successful, but also because you want the team to be successful and you want to meet your objectives. So it's not for everybody, but those folks that lean in to really understanding what the goals and objectives are and be able to go chase that and go after it is where people grow, I think.
Wait, don't go away. Not just yet. There's a bunch of links down below. You can see topics. If you're short on time, just go through that and pick some of the topics you're interested in and enjoy the rest of the video. So I'm writing down, when we get into leadership later, I'm curious, in the next generation, there's those people that you brought in and trained, and are they doing it for the next group?
That's
it's
right.
Kind of the whole mentorship topic.
It
but
is really cool to see. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Let's come back to that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's my teaser to get people to come back later.
Yeah.
Keep listening.
That's right.
All right. How about biggest failure, life, career? What'd you learn from it, and how do you bounce back from it?
That's a great question. What's your biggest failure? There's so many failures that I have that it's hard to pick one. One of the things that's relative to this industry is, from a failure perspective, is, when I got into this business 8 years ago, and while I understood the business from a banking perspective, I relate it similar to taking 2 years of Spanish in high school and then you move to Mexico. It's a completely different experience. And so for me, I had 20 years, 25 years of doing business with government contractors, dealing with business owners, startups, people that have grown and sold, really seeing technical people leave organizations and go into other places. And so I felt like I understood the industry fairly well until we lost a contract. It's all, is it Mike Tyson that said, plans are great plans until you get punched in the face, or, something. I probably didn't say it as eloquently as he did. I think that we all, at the time, we were early in the career here and really beginning to build MartinFed. We had a great contract with the Army. It was a very profitable contract, allowed us to do some things within the organization early that I wanted to do to engage with our employees and to offer our team, growth opportunities. And then we lose the contract. I had never had a year where I was the revenue was less than the year before in all of my years of doing business. And so that was a shock. I blamed myself. I blamed everybody around me. You go through the 5 stages of grief. And with that one, I realized that complacency, winning can create complacency. Winning can also create a false sense of security. And so it's very similar to the banking environment in 2008 when, I used to say, before 2008, if you were in real estate, everybody was smart. But when 2008 hit, it really exposed those that were highly leveraged or had made bad decisions. And so when things get tough, it really reveals some of the mistakes and that you've made. And for us, losing that contract really revealed our complacency that things would always be growing, things would always be, moving forward. And we just weren't prepared for it. So it was a gut punch to us. We actually had to lay off some folks. So it was a really, really hard time for the organization. And it's taken us a couple of years just to get through that culturally. But one of the things that, out of that is I learned that, you can't take anything for granted in this business or any other business, and you've got to keep your eye on the ball. And so that's a big lesson learned from that mistake. But, it's a mistake that I take personally. We want, first of all, we should have won the work. We got a little complacent with a customer. And two, when we did lose the work, we weren't prepared.
Hang on one second.
I
seem to have lost your audio for a moment.
You got me?
Oh, there you go. You're back. Okay. You said we should have won the work, but
yeah, we should have won the work. And so there was a lot of armchair quarterbacking after the fact. But we also should have been prepared to lose the work, and we weren't prepared to lose the work. So a lot of lessons that came out of that. It was very difficult for the organization. We've come through that, and we're on the other side of that now. But I think we're better because we did that.
So I want to ask a whole bunch of like really specific, if we were sitting down for at 3 hours. So what is there a thing, like I'm thinking about nuggets that me or people can really do? Was there a specific thing about why you think you lost that contract, without talking about that contract, or what you would have done to be ready to lose that contract? What would you have a specific plan in place, or what kinds of things did you pull out of all that experience?
Yeah, so there's two aspects of that. So let's talk about how did we lose the work, and what could we have done differently to keep that work? First of all, we always think we listen to our customer. I think we convince ourselves that we're really good listeners, but nobody really internally challenged ourselves to say, hey, are we really listening? Have they given us any indication that they want another solution, or they want another, prime contractor to do the things that they've talked about? And so after we lost the work, we went back and looked at it, and there were several little things that we ignored that the customer mentioned were important. They weren't explicit about it, but it was just these little things, and not paying attention to those little things, I think, led the customer to believe that we weren't listening to the bigger things. And there, I don't know really what caused the loss. I have obviously some ideas around that, but I think we again, it was complacency and thinking, hey, we're doing a really, really good job for this customer. And they really like the work that we do. They're complimentary to us, but we never looked at, hey, what is the customer really asking? What does the customer really need? What improvements have we made? We just didn't look at that closely. We were basically just saying, hey, we were really we were spending too much time celebrating our success of how we're taking care of that customer, rather than thinking, hey, how does the customer view this, and what is the customer saying, and are we doing the things that we need to do to wow the customer and go beyond just performing the statement of work? What are we doing to wow them? And I think we missed a little bit on that, and I think it was just because we were confident that we were doing everything the right way, and we weren't critical internally of looking at that relationship.
When you look back, was there anyone in the organization that maybe was saying some stuff like that and they weren't being listened to, or was everyone really like, yeah, we're rocking it along?
It's funny. I'm learning that when I have a gut feeling about something, to listen to that gut a little more. The customer had two things, and we like to ask our customers, what does wow look like? And, what would, exceptional look like? One of our core values is we pursue excellence. And so we ask our customers, and really coming, from that customer forward, asking our customers, what does excellence looks like to you? What does excellence look like to you? What does wow look like to you? And they gave us a couple things when that question was asked, and we really didn't do anything about it. And in my gut, I knew that these are little things, but we never really addressed it, and I just kind of let it go. And I think that is an area that my antenna is up more now, and I trust my gut a little more now of when somebody has just this, sometimes you ever go out to dinner and the waiter or waitress does this one little thing, and you go, wow, that's a big deal. It might not have been a big deal to somebody else, but it's a big deal to you. And I think we don't ask ourselves enough, what's a big deal to our customers and what can we do? And to them, we found out that this little thing was a big deal. And so that's how, that's the way that it goes. But, I think we've learned a lot from it, and we we really now challenge each other a lot more than we challenged each other back then.
Yeah, that's interesting. It strikes me as, you know, I was going to refer to the company curmudgeon. You know what I mean? You know,
Yes.
that kind of annoying guy or gal that's kind of always got the whatever, the annoying,
Yeah,
the
the
negative
Debbie
view,
Downer. Yeah.
the Debbie Downer, the contrary view. And
Yeah.
I think I myself have learned over the years that there's a balance there for sure. You can't be negative
Right.
all the time, but sometimes those folks are onto something, and you don't want to listen to them. So that's why I was asking, because I feel like I've been up against that that wall before.
Yeah, be
And probably
careful what you dismiss, right? Like that's not important, or
right.
that's so small in the grand scheme of thing. I think you got to look at everything.
Well,
And
and when
I
you
think
consider that sometimes it's in the delivery, but there's content, and so the delivery might be really annoying and over the top and ridiculous. Oh, everything's gonna fall apart, and that may not be the case, but there may be a nugget in there of like,
that's right.
that could win, yeah, that could lead to some issues later.
That's exactly right. Yeah, never say that
Interesting.
will never happen. That's that's just not,
Yeah,
it's like don't pray for humility, right? It's the same thing. And so, being it, seeing areas of problems and areas of potential problems, and it's the whole SWOT analysis thing that you can do with each one of your customers, just like you do internally. But
yeah,
it's listening to someone that says, "Hey guys, we've got to be careful because of this." I'll give you an example. We're working on something right now that is will create some growth for us, but it's not an easy thing to get from A to B. And one of the people internally with us said, "Hey, what if we mess this up? What's the risk?" And the risk is very high. Reputational risk is involved. There's financial risk involved, and so having somebody that can say, "Hey, what if we fail?" rather than failure is not an option. We all like to say that, but what is the plan, and what is the risk, and what is the opportunity that might be lost, or the reputational risk that might come along with it. And so I think just taking time and evaluating more rather than just go 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 is taking those moments to, and some people call it inserted friction. And if we can figure out a way to create some friction to slow us down, to really analyze and really discuss before we make decisions, I think that that's a good thing. I don't think that ever is a bad thing.
well, I just pulled out a nugget. I feel like it's like what you described, where like the waitress does something important, or
Yeah.
when you're really listening. And I'm telling you, there's a foot stomp. I think this is a foot stomp. I've never done a SWOT about my relationship with a customer or on a contract. I've
Mhm.
never thought to apply it that way. That is an interesting, especially if you got some decent size effort and you're like trying to look through. And I use SWOT all the time for things
Right.
relative to the market and to the business and strategic
Right.
planning and blah, blah, blah. But wouldn't it be interesting to do it on an individual customer? So I'm sorry, I just pulled that out of that.
No,
I've never done
and we don't. I don't think we do it enough here, and we certainly don't do it formally. In other words, we're not drawing the quad chart and doing the SWOT analysis, but we are doing it in our discussions and our thinking and holding each other accountable, and it becomes part of your cadence. And and again, we go back to the naysayer a minute ago that says, "Hey, what if it fails, or what if the customer doesn't understand, or what, this risk that might be inserted," and everybody ignores that. Well, that's a threat, and it may be the result of a weakness. So it's just understanding that quad chart of SWOT in all of the discussions that we're having with high stakes. I mean, this is a high stakes business. We're dealing with large contracts and mission critical customers and national security. And so I think that we all have to take the job seriously and look at it from a SWOT perspective in everything that we do, because it has consequences on the other side of that.
it. Have you ever heard of, with regard to SWOT, have you ever heard of TOES? Have you done
No.
this? I'll post it on this video. I've got to send you this thing.
Okay.
It takes SWOT and it shows you how to take, I think it's whatever, it's like take how to overcome, how to, you take TOWS, and it's how to overcome your threats with your strengths, or how to overcome, like
Okay.
so we basically, you do your SWOT, and then it's not that complex, but it just walks you through, how can I use my strengths to take advantage of my opportunities? How can I blah, blah, blah. And then that's how you build your strategy from your SWOT.
That's right.
So it's SWOT TOWS. It's on TOWS. Yeah, it's on YouTube, but I will send it to you. We do that, and I think that's been pretty cool, actually, as far as a way to talk about a thing.
I want to. I'd like to know more about that. That sounds cool.
All right. So, how do we move on to philosophy, leadership? I don't know. I just want to talk about your leadership journey, things that you've learned along the way. Maybe we could go back, if you want to go back to the concept of how you brought people and teams together, and then what they're doing with their teams, and the role of mentorship. However you want to talk about that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I've always been, a driven person, and so I like growth. I like hard things. I like challenges, and so I'm one of those people that likes to drive and to go. And so when I was growing up, and again, outside of the GovCon community, but in the banking community as a 20-something-year-old, I had a boss that really did what I like to do today. He was a mentor, and at the time, I saw him as a mentor, but you really don't see the benefits of that until later, maybe in your career. But just allowing people, especially hard chargers and driven people, is to not try to do their job for them, but to give them and make sure that they have the tools and the resources and the things that they need to be successful. And so, and then the other side of that is I never, as somebody that was driven, you get these annual performance evaluations, and nobody likes to go through those things. And a lot of times the reason that they don't want to go through those is that they're hearing things for the first time sometimes that is something that they need to work on. And I always wanted to know, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to improve? What do I need to work on? And I want to know that. I don't want to know that once a year. I want to know that in the moment. And I think when you look at sports teams and you look at high production athletes, they know what they do well. Sometimes they need the coaches to help them understand what they don't do well. And I still struggle with that with our team here and other teams, is really coaching in the moment. But it's something that I think is really valuable for somebody that's a leader that's kind of been there and ahead of you, to be able to provide you with areas, not necessarily things you've done wrong, but areas for improvement. And so it's really coaching in the moment and getting out of the way. And you can't do that with an underperformer. An underperformer, you really got to, that's where micromanagement begins to happen. And I think a lot of people micromanage because they've been micromanaged, and for some reason it was successful. But I think really smart people and driven people don't want to be micromanaged, but they do need to know, and they should want to know, where are my weaknesses and what are areas that I need to be working on. I talked to somebody the other day, and they were talking about they always have a work on. And so every employee within the organization, they have the things that their job description and the job requirements and the goals and objectives of their organization and for themselves, but they have a work on. In other words, what am I working on individually that I can do to improve me? Everybody needs a work on. And so for me, a work on is shutting up and listening more than talking. And that's really, you can tell by talking to me, that's really hard for me to do. But it is insane what happens when somebody tells you, hey, if you would shut up and listen, you might learn something. And then you shut up and you listen and you learn, and you go, man, that was good advice. Why didn't I listen to that before? Well, the same person has probably been telling you that 10, 20 times. But it's, when do you decide to execute on that work on? And I think that, one of the things that everybody needs to be doing is improving themselves.
So if once a year is not appropriate, right, feedback wise, especially for a charger, how often is?
I think
Is
it's
it a
in the
thing?
moment. If you don't have, we're dispersed, and just like you guys are, we have employees, in I think 17, 18 states. But I think it's the direct reports and making sure that those people that I have direct access to understand what my expectations are, and they see it through me leading by example. But they also, it's who the team you put together, and you're putting together a team of people that don't feel like that they've already arrived and they're the smartest person in the room. If you are the smartest person in the room and you feel like you've arrived and you don't have any room for improvement, then you'd probably be miserable on our team, because we're constantly working at what can we do better and what can we do to improve ourselves. And we always ask each other, hey, what can I do to improve? What can you do to improve? So I think it's continuous. That's easier said than done, though, Bill. I mean, if I'm doing it to my direct report, but they're not doing it to their direct report, and I don't see that, it's really hard for that culture to permeate throughout the organization. So you've got to be sure that the people that you're coaching and leading, they're doing the same thing to their team, they're doing the same thing to their team, and so forth. And that's how it permeates. There's no way you and I could go meet with every single employee once a month to talk to them about what they need to work on. So we have to trust our team to go do that. But yeah, so I'm not a fan of the annual performance evaluations. I never have been. But again, you got to do it. And some companies have removed them and have the continuous performance evaluations, and they have these tag ups that are weekly or monthly. It's just, logistically, that's just not been easy for us to do. But culturally, we like to do that, and we like to be sure that we're on top of it and that we have a lot of interaction.
Well, I'll put my plug in for, I think that's what we're trying to do with Failing Daily. Like, if it's okay to fail, then it's okay to give feedback. It's easier for me to give feedback after all these years. I don't know, because I don't care. Like, it's like I'm not,
Right.
I just do it. But, a younger person maybe, or someone that's not as used to it, I agree with you. It's difficult to get them to do it. And frankly, I think they need to view giving feedback like that, on the spot feedback, as something because I care about someone, not because I'm trying to bust their chops,
Yeah, it's coming from, and I'm a huge Patrick Lencioni fan, and it's the five dysfunctions of a team, the trust triangle. If you don't have trust, then there's no way you can provide feedback to someone that doesn't trust you or trust your motives. So you have to build trust. Well, the way to do that is showing up every day and being genuine, and then allowing your team them to see that you're genuine self, which means that I share my mistakes and I'm open with the things that I'm working on, and I'm open with what's going on. Sometimes maybe too open, but I'd rather be more transparent than buttoned up to where our team doesn't trust that what I'm saying is real and from the heart. And so if I've got a good heart, and the team member knows that, and I'm providing feedback, it's coming from a place of, I want you to get better and improve. I'm not trying to micromanage you or put myself on a pedestal that says I've do it my way. Sometimes their way is better than your way. You're just trying to help coach them to success, not necessarily coach them to be like you, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. So let me rubber meets the road then. Let me ask. So I think we often, and I'm gonna do it again because it's probably too long a conversation. We all conflate coaching, leadership, supervision, and management. Like everyone defines them differently, right? We can use them interchangeably, but so I'm gonna do it again and just say all of those. But how many people can one person manage?
Wow, that is a question that could be debated and debated. For me, direct reports, I don't think it should be more than 7, 10 max.
That's my number. Thank you. Did you get that from me? No,
I
totally
probably
agree.
did. Yeah, I've been watching Failing Daily every morning when I wake up. So I'm trying to learn from you, man.
Yeah.
But no, it's really
awesome.
from experience. I've been there before where I've had 15 people that I'm trying to keep up with, and it's just hard. And then, when I'm talking about that inserted friction to where you slow down and you make sure, man, if you've got a lot of direct reports, that there's no way that you can give them the time that they need to have, and the coaching that they need to have, and the tools that they need to be able to do what they need to do from you. And so we try, and it's not always easy. We've got some folks that have got a lot more of that reporting to them, but we really try to be aware of the number of direct reports that people have. But yeah, 7 for me. If you have really high performers, that are self-sufficient, maybe more than that, but 7 to me is a good number.
Which I think I agree with it too. Just even if you have high performers, they have their own needs too, right? Like, and they got to keep them. You want to keep them going, right? So they might need support or help. So yeah, I agree with you. What was I just going to ask about that? Okay, 7, good number. Let me try out the next one. A life hack.
Yeah.
Have you got a good life hack that might be useful to everybody?
Thinking about that, Bill, I don't know if I do or not. I will tell you something.
You told me you write everything down. That's what
thing. I started to say. I think that about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, it was after I got here at MartinFed, I learned the value of journaling, and somebody, I'm very open, and I think if you spend more than 6 minutes with me, you'll find that I have severe ADD. I think a lot of us do. And so for me, writing something down, journaling about something, getting up early in the morning, I do my devotional in the morning, and then I do some writing in the morning, and I reflect. And, when you get home at the end of the day, everybody's beat. And so it's easier to reflect at the end of the day, but do I want to get my journal out and write? And so I typically do that in the morning. And then I try to do it at the end of the week. And I look back at my notes, and I try to think about what are some nuggets that I learned this week. And also there's a lot of follow-up. And, if you're in any business development role, you learn that, business development is all follow-up. It is all follow-up. Getting that initial meeting is worthless if you don't follow up. And so taking notes and slowing down and understanding, kind of what did I hear today or yesterday, but it slows me down and forces me to think. And so that's been good for me spiritually. That's been good for me as a leader. That's been good for me as a husband and a father, is to purposely slow down. And you know what I found interesting when I started writing, and now I'm using an Apple Pencil on my iPad, but I was writing in paper before, and I really like that. When I started writing, I realized how weak the muscles in our hands are when we write for a little while, because we're so used to typing. Yep. Is that after about 3 minutes, you're shaking your hand because you're not used to writing. And so, I think that it's a skill that we all tend to lose. And so, pencil to paper, I still think that there's nothing better than that. And it forces us to slow down, and it gives us something to go back and reflect on. So I don't know if that's a hack or not, but it's an improvement I think that it made to me. And so I try to write down as much as I can write down.
That's great. How about, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I have a terrible memory, so that helps too.
Well, that helps too. Yeah, that's interesting. Do you, have you got some advice that you would give to, like, we could choose who it might be, early stage entrepreneur or someone aspiring to be a leader? Like, what's your take?
One of the things that I'm working on now is thinking back, and I've been doing this for about 3 months, maybe a little less than that now, in kind of my reflection time. I felt like I was really looking back at how did I get here? And so I look back at the younger David Mathis, and one of the things that I did really well is, one, I had drive, but I also had people I could look up to. And I tried to emulate those that I saw as successful. And one of the mistakes that I made is that I defined success as authority and position within a company and wealth. And I don't know if it's because we're getting older, Bill, but, monetary wealth is different than life wealth. I can't remember who wrote the book, but it's the 5 types of wealth, and it's it's a balanced wheel of family, of free time, and thoughtful individual personal time, community, obviously business, and profitability and success, and I consider success more not from a financial number, but from more of a freedom number. But this book, there's a 5th, and so you can tell I probably didn't read all the way to 5 because of the struggles that I have. But
ADD.
the point is that when I was younger, I didn't have anybody tell me that what wealth looks like and what success is. I had to figure that out on my own, and I was doing it the wrong way. So much is that I wanted to emulate the CEO, even though I was an analyst. I wanted to emulate the CEO, even though the CEO may have been divorced 3 times and his kids aren't talking to him and he has no personal time and his health is in horrible shape. I saw him financially and the house that he lived in and the respect that he had within the community as being what I wanted. Well, nobody says, hey, this guy is wealthy because he has all of his kids still talk to him, and he's still married to the same woman, and he still has he's got grandkids that he's pouring into. And so understanding that, I think, is something that I really want to focus on with some of our new graduates and young professionals, is helping them understand what is wealth, what is success. And I don't have the answers for that, but I sure as heck know that it's not just monetary. And so that piece to me is important, and that's something that I really want to pull on more, especially as you get older, you start to reflect a little more.
Well, I think that's really important. It's striking me in a lot of ways right now, and I'd love to help you with that. I think you're doing that right now, as far as getting that word out a little bit, right? Just by talking about, that's much clearer to me. I feel like I've experienced some of that myself, and that rings true. So that's good advice.
I mean, I think anybody that's kind of been through the ringer and is in a leadership role, you didn't get into a leadership role because you kind of sat back, but getting to the leadership role, if you follow that formula, but you have dead bodies behind you, and you have all of this, personal kind of struggles and issues behind you, is that what you want younger people to do? Do you want them to do the same thing you did? And the answer is heck no. I would much rather coach younger people to understand what true value is. But here's a caveat too that I think is super important, is that when I say you've got to have good family life, and you've got to have a community, and you've got to invest back in the community, you've got to invest in yourself, that doesn't mean that you get a pass to be lazy. That doesn't mean that you say, I don't have to work hard. Hard work is still got to be in the equation, or else you're going to have plenty of free time to be able to spend with your family. But you're not going to be able to get to where you want to go to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, to better your family, to better your community, to better yourself. So, I always, you have to say you've got to have a well-rounded goals and objectives, but none of that comes without really, really hard work. And you've got to have that in your DNA. And if you don't have it in your DNA, you got to figure out how to get it.
Great advice. How about we take a break for a second?
Yes, sir.